Hello, my fellow weirdlings. It's Margot, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Krampus, sort of the darker counterpart of Santa Claus. Whether you've been naughty or nice this year, keep watching. December 5th has long been known as Krampusnacht, or Krampus Night, a night of darkness and fear for those who haven't been on their best behavior. This is the night that all of the Earth's naughty children will receive their punishment. It also happens to be my birthday, so maybe my birth was their punishment that year. Krampus is typically depicted as a big, furry man-beast, usually brown or black, with cloven hooves, the horns of a goat, fangs, and an impressively long, pointed tongue. He appears draped in chains, often bedecked in bells of various sizes, and carrying birch rods. On only one night of the year, this terrifying creature is free to roam the earth, swatting unruly children with rusty chains and birch switches, before stuffing them into baskets or sacks and dragging them away to hell. On the upside, any well-behaved children that make it through the night unscathed will wake up on the morning of December 6th, known as Nikolastag, or St. Nicholas Day, to a reward from St. Nicholas. This was traditionally a small treat, such as oranges, dried fruit, walnuts, and chocolate. St. Nicholas, also known as Santa Claus, is the traditional bringer of gifts. The real St. Nicholas was a 4th century bishop who was noted for his generosity and secretive gift-giving. After his death, his re-emergence in myth dates back to medieval times, when he was known as Sinterklaas. The Sinterklaas feast was an occasion to help the poor by placing money in their shoes, which evolved into leaving presents in children's shoes. Though the more modern Santa Claus figure we're familiar with today didn't really start coming into shape until the 19th century. Sinterklaas would appear on his feast day dressed in a red bishop's robe, distributing sweets and gifts to deserving children, and lumps of coal, potatoes, or switches to the naughty ones. In this incarnation, he was accompanied by Swata Pete, or Black Peter, who was described as a black man, basically a slave to St. Nicholas who was made into the boogeyman that dealt with disobedient children so St. Nicholas could be the good guy. Honestly, the whole history behind this aspect of the story, and the way Black Peter is depicted in celebrations even today, is pretty offensive. The lyrics of older traditional Sinterklaas songs, still sung today, warn that Sinterklaas and his helper will leave presents for well-behaved children, but punish those who have been naughty. They might even take very poorly behaved children home with them in burlap sacks, where, according to legend, they will be forced to assist them in their workshop for an entire season or longer. These songs also warn that a child who has been only slightly naughty will receive a bundle of birch twigs or a lump of coal instead of gifts. The tradition was eventually brought to New Amsterdam, now known as New York City, where Sinterklaas was transformed into Santa Claus. That's the most simplistic explanation of how Santa Claus happened, but over the centuries, St. Nicholas was merged with many similar figures across various cultures and religions to create many different versions of the myth. For centuries, many countries have had traditions in which a malevolent sidekick accompanies their version of the St. Nicholas character. But that's enough about St. Nicholas. Though the origins are pretty murky, and in some circles a contemptuous topic, we do know that Krampus dates back as a German Christmas tradition to at least the 12th century. His name derives from the German word Krampen, which means claw. It's been theorized that the history of the Krampus figure may stretch back as far as pre-Christian Alpine traditions, which certainly would uphold the long-standing Christian tradition of taking pagan figures and assimilating them into the Christian devil. By the 17th century, Krampus was paired with St. Nicholas, giving us the traditional Krampus story we have today. Traditionally, children would leave their shoes next to their fireplace or coal stove overnight, with a carrot or some hay in them and a bowl of water nearby for Sinterklaas's horse. In the morning, they'd find out if St. Nicholas had filled their shoes with treats, if they'd been nice, or if Krampus had left a birch rod, if they'd been naughty. Of course, there are many other variations of this tradition throughout multiple cultures. I presume the rod in the shoe outcome came about if they were only slightly naughty, or if the Krampus assaulting and dragging them to hell for eternity threat turned out to be an exaggeration. Nonetheless, he presumably would leave a birch rod so their parents could assault them instead. Today, the most popular Krampusnacht tradition seems to be the Krampuslauf, or Krampus Run. These events commonly involve drinking and people dressed as Krampus or devil-like figures chasing each other through the streets and attempting to frighten onlookers. They're basically boisterous, Krampus-themed parades that look like a lot of fun. Some celebrations even include switching stations, where participants can go to get spanked by people dressed as Krampuses. Now that should really get you into the Krampusnacht spirit. Modern-day Krampus celebrations are still held around the world, including Germany, Poland, Italy, Hungary, Austria, and even in several major cities across the U.S. Each year in the U.S., when pandemics don't interfere, there are more and more celebrations. If you are looking for a socially distanced Krampusnacht tradition you can easily participate in, Europeans have been exchanging greeting cards featuring Krampus since at least the 19th century, that usually contain humorous rhymes or poems. With Krampus's ever-growing popularity, Krampus-themed cards are usually abundant on Etsy. Whatever you're celebrating this holiday season, I hope you have a good one, and don't wind up in any baskets, sacks, or hell's caves. That's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this story and will come back for more. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and bring your friends, family, COVID pod, cult members, invisible friends, or enemies. And if you have any interesting holiday traditions, tell us all about them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.